Welcome back to another session of vocabulary building with word roots. Today, we're looking at 5 roots: agro, meaning farming; alg, meaning pain; alimen, meaning nourishment; allo, meaning different; and alto, meaning high.
Agro, farming. Agriculture, management of the land. Agrarian, relating to the management of land.
Let's dive into the first root, agro, which connects to land, farming, and the countryside. Words like agriculture or agrarian describe anything related to land or farming. Dr. Burns, what other words come from this root?
Well, interestingly, words like pilgrim and peregrination also trace back to the root agre. A pilgrim comes from the Latin peregrinus, meaning one who wanders through the fields. Similarly, a peregrination is a long journey, especially by foot.
That's fascinating. So the idea of wandering through fields gave us words connected to travel and journeying.
Exactly. And since agrarian can also mean a simple rural life, especially one based on farming, we should also consider some higher level vocabulary tied to rural and countryside life. These words often appear on advanced exams.
Great. What's the first one?
Let's begin with pastoral. It means relating to shepherds or to peaceful country life. The word comes from the Latin pastoralis, from pastor, meaning shepherd.
So a pastoral scene would be something like rolling green fields with sheep and shepherds.
Exactly. Next we have bucolic. This comes from the Greek bucolicus, meaning herdsman. It describes the pleasant, rustic aspects of country life.
Bucolic definitely sounds poetic, like an idyllic countryside setting.
And that brings us to idyllic. It comes from the Greek idyllion, which originally meant a short poem about simple, peaceful rural scenes. In English, it now means charmingly simple and picturesque.
So if I see a little cottage by a stream, I could describe it as idyllic?
Perfectly said. Then we have rustic, from the Latin rusticus, meaning of the country. It often refers to something simple or old-fashioned, but in a charming way.
Like rustic bread, hearty, homemade, and simple.
Exactly. Another term is Arcadian. This comes from Arcadia, a region in ancient Greece imagined by poets as an unspoiled rural paradise. When we describe something as Arcadian, we mean it reflects an ideal, peaceful countryside.
That makes me picture untouched valleys and endless meadows.
Yes, that's the image. And finally, we have sylvan, which comes from the Latin silva, meaning forest. It describes anything related to woods or woodlands.
So a sylvan landscape would be a forest scene.
Exactly. All of these words, pastoral, bucolic, idyllic, rustic, Arcadian, sylvan, agrarian, help us capture the beauty and simplicity of rural life.
Alg, pain. Neuralgia, pain caused by a nerve. Analgesic, drug that makes one pain-free. Nostalgia, aching for the familiar.
Our next root is alg, which means pain. Quite a shift from peaceful rural life to pain. So how does this root appear in English words?
The Greek root alg appears in many medical and scientific terms, often as the suffix algia, which indicates a type of pain. For example, myalgia means muscle pain, neuralgia means pain caused by a nerve, and fibromyalgia refers to chronic pain in muscles and connective tissues.
So whenever I see algia, I can guess it has something to do with pain.
Exactly. And it's not limited to medical contexts. Other words also come from alg. For instance, analgesic, a drug that makes one pain-free. It's built from an, meaning not, plus alg for pain. And then there's nostalgia, which comes from nost, meaning returning home, or homecoming, plus alg. Originally, nostalgia meant an aching for home, and today it refers to that bittersweet longing for the familiar.
That makes sense. Nostalgia really does feel like an ache for something you can't quite get back. Are there other roots connected to pain? I remember we had agon, the Greek root for struggle or pain, in our last vocabulary session, like in agony, meaning extreme pain.
Good recall. Yes, along with alg and agon, English has several other roots linked to pain. The word pain itself comes from the Latin poena, meaning punishment or penalty. That's how the sense of suffering entered English.
Interesting. So pain was originally tied to the idea of punishment.
Right.
Are there words in English that come from the root pona, meaning pain or punishment?
Yes, quite a few. In fact, many high-level legal and academic words trace back to this root. Interestingly, in Roman mythology, Pena was also the goddess of punishment and retribution. So the very idea of pain and penalty was personified as a divine figure.
That's fascinating. The root itself already carried the weight of justice and punishment. Could you give us some examples in English?
Absolutely. First, we have penal, meaning relating to punishment, as in penal code, the laws that define crimes and their penalties.
Right. I've heard that in legal contexts.
Then there's penalty, a punishment imposed for breaking a law or rule.
So, like a penalty in a sports is a small punishment, but in law, it's much more serious.
Exactly. Another is punitive, meaning inflicting or intended as punishment. For example, punitive measures are harsh actions taken to discipline someone.
That definitely sounds formal and serious.
And finally, we have subpoena, a legal writ requiring a person to appear in court under penalty of punishment if they fail to do so.
So, all of these, penal, penalty, punitive, subpoena, connect back to Pona, the ancient goddess of retribution and the Latin root for pain and punishment.
Exactly. It's a reminder that language often carries echoes of mythology, law, and culture all at once. Then there's the root path, from Greek meaning feeling. Sometimes it's about emotions, other times about suffering or disease. For example, pathos is the quality that stirs pity or sorrow. Apathy combines a, meaning not, with path, so no feeling. The opposite is sympathy, from sim, meaning together, plus path, feeling with someone, often in their pain. In medicine, path shows up in words like neuropathy, a nerve disease that causes pain. And in psychology, we see it in psychopath or sociopath, both sharing the path root.
So path can mean both feeling and suffering.
Exactly. And finally, there's the Latin root dolor, which means pain or sorrow. From it, we get words like doleful and dolorous, both meaning full of sorrow. Higher level exam words also come from dolor. For example, condolence combines con, meaning together, with dolor, so literally sorrow together, or an expression of sympathy. Then there's indolence. It originally meant avoiding pain, but in modern English, it describes someone who's lazy.
I see. So English has many different pathways to express pain. Alg and algia, poena, agon, path, and dolor.
That's right. And here's one more helpful note. The suffix ia is often used in medical terms to describe a condition or abnormal state. For instance, anemia means no blood or lack of healthy red cells. Amnesia means loss of memory. And of course, neuralgia means nerve pain. The ia ending signals that it's naming a condition.
Got it. So alg gives us the pain, and IEA frames it as a condition. That makes medical vocabulary much easier to decode.
Alum, digestion. Alimentary, relating to nourishment or sustenance. Alimony, financial support for the divorced spouse.
Our next root is alimen, which means nourishment or digestion. From it, we get words like alimentary, which relates to nourishment or sustenance, and alimony, financial support paid to a divorced spouse. So alimony is basically money for food for the divorced spouse.
Exactly. That's the connection. The root aliment comes from Greek and relates to food and nourishment. But English also has a Latin counterpart, nutri, which also means nourishment or to feed.
Oh, so we have both the Greek root alimen and the Latin root nutri, and both tie into the idea of food and growth?
That's right. From nutri, we get words like nurture, which means to care for and encourage the growth or development of someone or something. We also have nutrient, a substance that nourishes and is essential for growth. Another is malnutrition, where mal means bad or wrong, so faulty or inadequate nutrition. And of course, the very word nourishment comes from the same Latin root.
So alimen and nutri are really about the same big idea: food, nourishment, and growth.
Exactly. They remind us how closely our vocabulary is tied to the most basic human need, eating and sustaining life.
Allo, alter, alien. Other, another, different. Alloy, a metal made by combining two or more metallic elements. Allocate, to distribute resources for a particular purpose. Alienate, cause to feel isolated or unsympathetic. Altercation, argument, quarrel. Altruism, selfless concern for the well-being of others.
Let's move on to our next root, allo, along with its relatives alter and alien. All of these mean other, another, or different.
Exactly. From these roots, we get words like alloy, which is a metal made by combining two or more metallic elements. That mixing captures the sense of different things coming together.
Oh, so bronze, which is an alloy of copper and tin, is literally metals mixed from others.
Right. Another good example is allocate, which means to distribute resources for a particular purpose. You're sending things to another place or assigning them elsewhere.
That makes sense, like funds being allocated to different departments.
Exactly. Then we have alienate. Originally from the root alien, meaning other or stranger, it means to cause someone to feel isolated or like an outsider.
That fits. If someone feels alienated, they feel like they're from another world.
Nicely put. Next is altercation, which means a quarrel or argument. Here, alter carries the idea of the other side or opposing viewpoint.
So in an altercation, two people are literally othering each other on opposite sides of an argument.
Exactly. And finally, we have altruism, which is selfless concern for the well-being of others. Here, the root alter or alch points to the other. So altruism means caring for others before yourself.
I like that. Other-centeredness built right into the root.
Yes, and English also borrows other roots that express the idea of different. For example, the Greek root hetero, meaning other or different. From it, we get heterodox, meaning different from accepted beliefs, heterogeneous, meaning diverse in character, and heteronym, words that are spelled the same but have different meanings.
Like tear, from crying, and tear, meaning to rip. Same spelling, but different sounds and meanings, that's heteronym.
Exactly. On the Latin side, we have the root var, which also means different. It gives us words like various, meaning of different kinds, variegated, marked with different colors, and variant, a form that differs from the standard.
So allo, alter, alien give us the idea of otherness, and then hetero and var carry the same idea in Greek and Latin. That's a lot of ways to express difference.
Yes, and what's nice is that many of these words are common in everyday English and in advanced academic contexts. So once you see the root, you can unlock their meanings more easily.
Alto, high. Altitude, the height of an object in relation to sea level. Altimeter, an instrument for determining altitude.
All right, let's finish strong with our last root, altus, which means high, or sometimes even deep.
That's right. From altus, we get the word altitude, which is the height of something in relation to sea level or the ground. Climbers on Mount Everest always talk about the challenges of high altitude.
And we measure that with an altimeter, right? That's the instrument pilots use to tell how high they are flying.
Exactly. And the same root shows up in altocumulus, those beautiful high-altitude clouds that look like a field of cotton in the sky.
So altus is always pointing us upward.
Upward and sometimes inward, too. Take exalt, which means to raise up in rank, power, or spirit, to glorify. It's lifting something to a higher level, not just physically, but emotionally or spiritually.
And I've heard the word altitudinous. That sounds fancy.
Yes, altitudinous just means having great height. It's a high-reaching word about high-reaching things.
What about alto? I know that from music, like alto saxophone or alto singers.
Right. In music, alto refers to a voice or instrument that's higher than tenor, but lower than soprano. Interestingly, though, it comes from altus, meaning high. In modern usage, it actually names a middle high range. Language loves those little twists.
And isn't there a city named after this root?
Yes, Palo Alto in California. The name is Spanish, literally meaning tall stick or tall tree. It refers to a famous tall redwood tree called El Palo Alto that stood as a landmark for Spanish explorers. The alto here kept its original meaning of tall or high.
That's a great image, a towering redwood tree giving a city its name.
Exactly. So whether it's music, mountains, clouds, or cities, the altus root keeps lifting us upward.
That's a perfect place to wrap up. We've traveled from the peaceful fields of Agro all the way up to the heights of altus.
It's been a real pleasure exploring these roots together.
And thank you for joining us. We hope these roots give you a higher perspective on English vocabulary. Until next time.